Hey, whoa, 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 whoa. Hey, fellas, take it easy. Quit fighting. You can both help, all right? You can both help. Just, you're probably wondering why you just spent the last 10 seconds of your life watching a tiny winch, a tiny radar, and a wind-up key. Well, let me explain. How you going? My name's Bill, and welcome to Krazy Grandad, the channel where we can do some fun stuff, do some dumb stuff, and maybe even learn some stuff. Today we're going to be looking at remote control hacks. In other words, things that you can do with your hobbies and with your remote control gear without having to shell out lots of money and just order stuff or buy stuff or whatever. Take stuff that you've got laying around at home, might be broken, whatever, and we're going to look into seeing if we can recycle bits and pieces and maybe, who knows, save yourself a few bucks on the way. So let's have a look. Righto, servos. Anyone do an RC? We've all seen servos, we've all had servos, we all own servos. There's lots of different shapes, lots of different sizes, different weights, what have you. Everything from tiny little 9-gram ones here, which are really good for aircraft use, stuff like that, up to your nice big sturdy heavy steel gears for more rugged applications, shall we say. We all know how they work. Okay, you put it in, you move your controller and your servo moves, and it moves your steering, your throttle, your control surfaces on your plane, whatever you like. They're pretty common. Another thing they do is they break. When they break, some people throw them in the bin, and I'm here to tell you there's really no need to. Most servos are basically just like this. This is a tiny little ESC, little speed controller for a little motor. You get big ones, you get small ones, you know, brushed, brushless, all the rest of it. Basically these take a signal from your receiver and they tell the motor how fast to go. It's that simple, and in which direction. The funny thing is, inside a servo, they're actually not that much different. Inside a servo, you've got power going through to it, you've got the signal going through to it. It's telling that how fast to turn and which way. The only difference is there is a feedback loop inside of here in the form of a teeny tiny little potentiometer that tells it when to stop. So if you move your stick or your throttle or your steering or whatever so far, it'll tell it to stop there. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about what they are, how they work, what they do for a living. That's cool, great, boring. Let's get those out of the way. Before I go and muddy up the waters in this video about the difference between a normal servo, a 360-degree servo, and a gear motor, because we're effectively making those three things potentially out of the same thing. Let's have a look at these three here. Please excuse my lighting, it's going a little bit mental. You know what, I'm just going to turn it off. We can work in the dark, it's fine, it's fine. Here, normal servo, plug it in, does what it's meant to do, right? Little Tower Pro, great little servos. I buy these in bulk, they're fantastic. From this, we can make two things if we need. This is a little 360-degree servo, so it still acts and works like a servo. You plug it in, it gets its PWM signal, but instead of getting to a point stopping, it'll just keep on turning. And if you flick your stick the other way, it'll turn the other way. And again, you've got speed control over it, so you can make it turn slowly or really quickly. All right, really handy, like a little, basically its own little self-contained PWM controlled teeny tiny little gear motor. Awesome. So sometimes with these servos, the little circuit boards in the back of them, they got these tiny little circuit boards in the back that's the brains of the servo. And sometimes if they're overloaded continually or whatever, that little board can cook itself or just stop working, whatever. So when that happens, so you've got this servo, the board's cooked in it, and you're thinking, great, it's bin job. No, wrong. Open it up, take all the guts out of it, not the mechanical guts, just the electronic guts. This one here, as you can see, there's only 2 wires coming out of it. I just use this for testing. This has just got a bit of jumper wire coming out of it. But if you have a close look, you can almost see right through that. There's no circuit board, no nothing. The only thing I've left in there is the outer shell of the little potentiometer there. You can see that little black bit there, but that doesn't do anything. All it does is acts as a shaft for all of those bits to turn on. This is just a gear motor. It is literally been turned in just a DC gear motor. So this can always also be handy as well. Problem is now, if you want to use this, then you're into speed control territory. So you're plugging into a little speed controller to run it. So there we go. That hopefully that clears up the difference between that, and that. Let's move on. Alright, so I've just gone into my servo graveyard and found this little number. This is an old Sanwa servo. It was actually in the same box as this. Get a load of that. Who remembers these? The old AM receivers. Oh my god. Those were the days. They don't make them like that anymore. And same with this servo. This thing's no different. Look at that componentry. That is some old gear in there. Lots of stuff standing up on its end. Chunky. They don't make them like that anymore. Look at that PCB. That's a work of art. Anyway, I digress. So as I said before, with your average servo, you've got your motor, you've got your control board, and then you've got, if you can see it down in here, you've got your little potentiometer. So that is taking drive from the final drive, which is where your servo horn is, and as that goes around, it's sending a signal back telling the brain board when to stop, or where the center is, or whatever. So what you can do is, if you are looking to, let's say, make yourself a little 360-degree servo and you don't want it to stop, what you're going to do is you're going to take that bit there. It needs to stay there generally because there are other parts that will revolve on it. But what you're going to do is you're going to disconnect it. Now these 3 wires that you can see, they go through to various parts on the board. Now I probed this one before. Now the collective resistance on this potentiometer is 3.6k ohms. So that means it's going to be from middle to either side is going to be 1.8k ohms, all right, half. So what you would do with something like this, if you want to make a 360-degree servo, if I can get in a little bit closer, is you're going to go from one wire to the other. Which one's in the middle? Red in the middle. So it goes orange, red, brown. Let's come back into frame here. So you're going to go from the orange to the red, and you're going to solder in a 1.8k servo. And then resistor. It's been a long day. And then from there onto the brown one with another 1.8k resistor. So what you've then got then is the rest of the board thinks that this is in the middle all the time. So when you apply a signal to it or whatever, it'll move, but nothing's happening. So it'll just keep on going and going and going at whatever rate you've told it to go. So that's how you make yourself a little 360-degree servo. Preferably not with one as old as this. I don't know, I should try it with this and see what happens. I'll see if I can find all the other gears and the top hat and all the rest of it. So that's your 360-degree servo, and then obviously if you're going just back to gear motor, that means something on this board has died. So then you would just desolder the board from the motor, take these wires out, remove all of that, and then just run 2 wires straight into your motor, and you're done. You're golden. Put all your gears back together and blah blah blah, and you're set. So there we go. Alright, enough about servos and all that kind of carry on for now. Let's look at running tiny little DC motors on your RC gear. I've got these two here to kiss and make up after their little altercation earlier on. You may hear a funny sound in the background. I'm not actually on a ferry ride, it is actually a tumble dryer in the next room. So this all looks a bit complicated, but it's pretty straightforward. We've got our transmitter, we've got a receiver, we have 2 little ESCs. I'm borrowing power off the power rail on the RX, which no doubt my transmitter will be sure to let me know about afterwards. And you may recognise this, and this is just basically the same thing, just a smaller motor, and it's a little bit quicker. I think this is a 30 to 1 or 50 to 1 maybe. That's actually 100 to 1 gear ratio. So let's fire it up and let's have a look, see what we're dealing with. So first things first, transmitter on first always. Fire up everything else. Now basically I'm running this on channel 3, this on channel 2 from memory. There we go. So there's our awesome little wind-up key. So these sorts of little micro gear motors, I mean, you can see how small they are. They're tiny, and they can be really handy for you know, whatever you're doing to your RC model. You know, you just might want to have a prop or something like that, sort of like where is it, the old awesome little radar module. You know, again, that was done with a servo, or you can do it with a DC motor. And then you can go for something a little bit quicker like this one here, if it's going to work. Did I even switch it on? Probably not. Oh no, it's not working. What have I done? That's working. Why is this not working? Have I broken it? Okay, relax. I've got it sorted. It's all good. It works. Alright, so this one's quite a bit quicker. These can be good fun for even for smaller RC models. You want to make yourself a teeny tiny little RC car. There's the size of the motor. They're cool, and they don't cost a lot either. Pretty much the same sort of thing as this. Different gear ratios, different shaft lengths. They're great. So incidentally, the one that's got the key on it, that's the same sort of motor as what you saw at the start of the video with the, oh, now this one's blown up, here we go, with the winch on the front of the little truck there. Same sort of motor, and these ESCs are not having it. But anyway, enough mucking around. Let's turn all that off. Let's go through what we're dealing with here. So these are obviously little low current ESCs. Again, I buy these in bulk. They're cool. They've got these little power switches on them. A lot of people bypass these. You don't really have to have that. You can sort of have it so it just powers up with the rest of the model. But yeah, and they're good. They're really handy. They're obviously dual direction. They're good fun, and you can do all sorts of stuff with them. You can even get, I think I've even got some little boards that will run 2 PWM inputs and then 2 motor outputs through the same board. What that allows you to do is run 2 of these side by side and have like a do a bit of mixing on the transmitter and have like a bit of a skid steer sort of thing going on with your drive. Say if it was a, I don't know, some sort of tracked vehicle or something like that. Likewise, when this kind of setup here, if it's a tiny little application like this, this is where one of those little 360-degree homemade servos can get you out of trouble with a lot less wiring, as long as it's not under the load. With this, you can go bigger ESC, bigger motor, bigger load, whatever. So yeah, I think I've actually got some footage somewhere of a little doodad I had running around earlier on with a couple of those. Where is it? I've put it away. A couple of those wheels on it. It's just like a little, oh, here we go. This dealio. Two of those wheels on it. And yeah, I was just driving around on the floor having a bit of fun. And so it's basically literally just two of those running 2 channels off the RX. And I think I just had it running on a V-tail mix, like a aircraft V-tail mix. So you can effectively forwards, backwards, and then you've got your steering as well, all on one stick. So yeah, good fun. The astute amongst you also may have noticed that before I had an iced coffee sitting next to me, and now I have a cup of regular coffee. It's cooled down a little bit since I first started filming this video, and by cooled down, it was a little bit warmer earlier on. For instance, man, that's yeah, so a little bit warm today. Anyway, I hope I haven't bored you too much. I hope we've all learnt something a little bit, bits and pieces that you can do with your RC vehicles, and you know, hopefully you might be able to revive some broken bits and pieces you've got laying around in the bottom of your parts box, and make yourself some accessories out of it. And then you don't have to go out and buy that expensive 10th scale winch or blah blah blah, or you can put your awesome active radar on your favorite model ship, and so on and so forth. So yeah, I'd like to thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Check you later.